Fezco, or Fez as everyone calls him, is the beating heart of a specific, dusty corner of the Euphoria universe, a character who exists in a profound and compelling contradiction. He is, by the strict letter of the law, a criminal. He runs a modest drug operation from his grandmother's home, a place that smells of stale smoke and simmering pasta sauce, where the decor is frozen in a different decade and the family business just happens to be illicit pharmaceuticals. Yet, to the lost teenagers of the show, particularly Rue and Lexi, Fez is not a menace but a sanctuary. He is a dealer who refuses to sell to recovering addicts, a tough guy who offers gentle wisdom and a stable, if unconventional, shoulder to cry on. This is the core of his fascinating psychology. Fezco operates under a strict, self-imposed moral code within an amoral world, making him what we might call an ethical criminal, a man whose choices reveal a deep, instinctual understanding of right and wrong that often has more integrity than the actions of the so-called upright citizens around him. To understand Fez is to understand that his code isn't a simple list of rules but a complex survival mechanism, forged in trauma, rooted in loyalty, and ultimately aimed at preserving the few shreds of genuine goodness he can find in his fractured environment. His moral framework was built in the crucible of a violent and unconventional childhood, primarily under the tutelage of his grandmother, who raised him and his adopted brother Ashtray. This upbringing was far from traditional. Grandma Fez was herself a drug dealer, and her lessons were a bizarre blend of criminal tradecraft and fierce, protective love. She taught Fez how to handle a firearm and how to manage inventory, but she also instilled in him a powerful sense of responsibility and family loyalty. This duality is key. Fez didn't choose the criminal life as a rebellion or a get-rich-quick scheme, it was his inheritance, his normal. His morality, therefore, had to be constructed from the materials available within that world. He learned that while selling drugs was the family business, exploiting people's misery for pure greed was wrong. He learned that violence was sometimes a necessary tool for protection, but never for pleasure or petty dominance. His grandmother's lessons, however harsh, carved out a space for ethics inside a lawless operation. When she suffered a medical crisis, leaving Fez as the primary caregiver for a young Ashtray, this code solidified into a sacred duty. His entire world narrowed to one principle: protect Ashtray at all costs and keep their fragile, cobbled-together family afloat. The drug trade became simply the means to that end, the engine that kept the lights on and food on the table for his little brother. This context is vital. For Fez, criminality is not an expression of greed but of survival and familial love. A burden he carries with a solemn sense of purpose. This purpose manifests in his every interaction, creating a stark contrast between his profession and his personality. Consider his relationship with Rue, which is the clearest illustration of his ethical boundaries. Fez knows Rue is an addict with a serious problem. While other dealers might see her as a perfect, relentless customer, Fez sees a spiraling girl he cares about. He refuses to sell to her when she is fresh out of rehab, a monumental act of integrity for someone in his line of work. He prioritizes her well-being over his own profit, a choice that costs him money and showcases a protective instinct that transcends business. His lectures to her about sobriety, delivered in his gruff, simple vernacular, are some of the most genuinely caring moments Rue experiences. He is not a preacher on a hill, he is a man in the trenches telling her, from hard experience, that this path leads to ruin. Similarly, his gentle, almost paternal friendship with Lexi Howard shows a different side. With Lexi, there is no drug dynamic. She is a nervous, observant girl who finds in Fez a non-judgmental listener. He doesn't mock her for her innocence. He respects it. He offers her advice about life and love that is startlingly insightful, proving his wisdom isn't about street smarts alone but about a fundamental understanding of human connection. These relationships prove that Fez categorizes people in his mind. There are customers, and there are people he cares for, and he enforces a strict wall between those categories. His violence, too, follows this code. He is capable of breathtaking brutality, as seen in his near-fatal assault on Nate Jacobs. But this violence is never random or predatory. Nate is an abuser, a manipulator who threatens the people Fez loves, specifically Maddie and Jules. Fez's attack is a brutal, disproportionate, but clear act of retributive justice in his mind. He is the imperfect instrument punishing a bully, acting as a vigilante in a world where the police and parents are absent or incompetent. It is wrong, it is criminal, but within Fez's moral calculus, it is justified as protection. The tragic heart of Fez's story, however, is that his unwavering code is constantly at war with the chaotic, escalating realities of the world he inhabits. His love for Ashtray is his driving force, but it is also his greatest vulnerability. Ashtray, having been raised entirely within this insulated, violent bubble, internalized the survival lessons without the nuanced morality Fez struggled to build. Ash is more ruthless, more impulsive, and sees threats in more absolute terms. Fez's attempt to shield him ultimately cannot protect Ash from his own nature or from the consequences of their lifestyle. The devastating standoff with the police is the ultimate failure of Fez's code. He spent a lifetime trying to build a safe, principled castle within a swamp. But the swamp inevitably swallowed it. In that final episode, every sacrifice, every rule, every act of protection collapses in a hail of gunfire. His moral code, however noble, could not withstand the absolute, institutional force of the law he lived outside of. Yet, even in his downfall, his humanity shines through. His first and only concern is for Ashtray, screaming his name, his love and fear cutting through the violence. This final moment cements him not as a failed criminal but as a tragically doomed guardian. In conclusion, Fezco's psychology is that of a man trying to plant a garden in concrete. His moral code, centered on protection, loyalty, and a clear, if unconventional, sense of justice, is his attempt to grow something good in a place where nothing is supposed to grow. He is an ethical criminal precisely because his ethics are not borrowed from a rulebook but are handmade, hard-won, and desperately held. He shows us that goodness is not about where you stand in society but about the choices you make within the space you occupy. In the bleak, often nihilistic landscape of Euphoria, Fez stands as a monument to contradictory virtue, a bad guy with a good heart, a dealer who dealt in small kindnesses, and a violent man whose greatest desire was simply to keep his family safe. His story is a heartbreaking reminder that morality is messy, complicated, and often found in the last places you would think to look, beating strongly in the chest of a man who the world would too easily write off as just another part of the problem.